The US pilot hiring market in mid 2025 is at a crossroads. After a frenzied post pandemic hiring boom, airlines have hit the brakes and settled into a new normal. If you're an aspiring pilot, you might be wondering, well, did I miss my chance? Did I miss the hiring wave? Or is now still a good time to jump in? Well, in this video, we'll break down the latest trends in pilot hiring from the majors to regionals to cargo carriers and give you the numbers, expert insights, and tips you need to navigate your aviation career. You'll want to watch this video because the outlook might surprise you, in a good way. And we'll end with some advice to give you a competitive edge in your journey to the cockpit. Oh, and by the way, if you're watching this video because you're currently trying to change careers and become a pilot, I have an entire course that is specifically made for you. This course will walk you through every single step, from knowing nothing about the industry all the way into getting a job offer from a regional airline. I've currently lowered the price by over $100 until the end of July, so if you're watching this before August 1st, then consider yourself lucky and check it out down below. Alright, enough self-promo, back to the video. Let's start by talking about the major airlines' post-boom hiring trends. Major US airlines went on an unprecedented hiring spree in 2022 and 2023, only to tap the brakes in 2024. In fact, full-year pilot hiring at the biggest carriers plunged to 4,834 in 2024, down from 12,196 hires in 2023 and roughly 13,128 at the 2022 peak. Early 2025 has continued at an even slower pace. Airlines brought on 1,139 pilots in January and February, about 34% fewer than the same period a year prior. Well, what's going on here? Essentially, the majors filled their most urgent needs and ran into some headwinds like aircraft delivery delays and training bottlenecks, prompting a return to more normal, typical hiring levels. Airline executives frame this as a normalization rather than a bust. American Airlines, for example, hired more pilots in 2023 than ever before, so many that they got ahead of their staffing needs for 2024. This allowed America to pause new hired classes until late 2024 and recalibrate for a steadier intake. Delta Airlines likewise announced it would have its 2024 hiring plans after bringing on over 2,200 pilots in 2022 and 23, targeting a more modest 500 new pilots in 2025 to match a normal growth pattern. United Airlines hasn't released a specific 2025 hiring figure, but its ambitions remain big. United plans to add 800 new aircraft by 2032 and hire 10,000 pilots in this decade. As those jets arrive, Southwest Airlines, which froze hiring in 2024 due to financial pressures and Boeing delivery woes, will likely resume recruiting once its operations stabilize. So, in short, the major carriers are no longer in an all-out hiring frenzy, but they still need pilots to replace retirees and crew new planes, just at a more measured pace. Let's talk about the regionals. If the majors have eased off the gas, regional airlines are where the real opportunity lies for new pilots. Regional carriers, the ones operating as American Eagle, Delta Connections, United Express, etc., still face a pilot shortage in some ways. Over the past few years, the big airlines aggressively hired from the regional ranks, forcing regionals to park aircraft and cut flights for lack of crew. Regional flight schedules dropped about 36% since 2019, largely due to pilot staffing issues. It's estimated that restoring all of the parked regional jets would require 6,000 additional pilots. That's a huge demand that regionals are wanting to fill. Let's talk about the upside of this situation. Lots of entry-level openings. Regional airlines remain a tried and true pathway for newly minted commercial pilots to gain experience. In 2023 and 2024, many regionals dramatically increased pay and bonuses to attract talent. Some first-year regional first officers now earn as much as double what they did pre-2020. Fleet growth is back on the table too. Envoy Air, an American Eagle carrier, is scheduled to add 31 new Embraer 175 jets in 2025, and GoJet plans to introduce a new CRJ 550 each month. That's effectively going to double its operations. Major airlines are leaning on regionals to rebuild feeder routes they lost during the pandemic, which means regionals need pilots to fly those added flights. All this is good news if you're a low-hour pilot. Early career pilots are in demand at regionals, and the traditional experience building path, flight instructing, then right seat at a regional, is still alive and well. The long-term pilot shortage is still biting here. Retirements and fewer new entrants created a global deficit of qualified pilots. This is making regionals compete hard for applicants. Some are even adjusting schedules and dropping trips because they can't find enough crew. The bottom line is that regionals are in a bit of a hiring lull at the moment because they hired so many in previous years, but they're still not fully staffed. Regional airlines are hiring, and they're a prime entry point if you're looking to log turbine time. The hiring criteria haven't softened. You still need your ATP or restricted ATP, but the red carpet is rolled out with bonuses, tuition reimbursement, quick upgrades, and flow-through agreements to the majors. For new pilots willing to hustle, the regionals are a land of opportunity in 2025. Let's talk about the mixed signals in cargo flying. Here, the picture is a bit mixed in 2025 depending on the airline. During the pandemic, cargo carriers like FedEx and UPS were flying high, literally, with surging demand. Now, with e-commerce growth stabilizing and global trade in flux, cargo airlines have adjusted their pilot staffing, some even in the opposite direction of passenger airlines. For instance, FedEx Express, the world's largest cargo airline, actually halted pilot hiring through 2024 and has been looking to downsize its pilot pool in response to a slump in parcel volumes. In early 2024, FedEx announced it was cutting back guaranteed flying hours by 13% and pushing roughly 400 senior pilots to take early retirement to reduce an oversupply of crew. They even warned that if a major U.S. Postal Service contract were lost, a few hundred more pilots could become redundant, which is just a fancy word for not needed. So FedEx pilots have been facing a rough patch with talk of pay cuts and fewer hours, a reminder that not all sectors are short on pilots. Now, on the other hand, though, UPS has a brighter outlook. In mid-2024, UPS won a new USPS airmail contract, picking up some work that FedEx shed, and announced plans to hire more than 300 pilots to handle the increased cargo volumes. In fact, UPS was one of the few airlines to hire more pilots in 2024 than the previous year, bringing on 62 pilots just in May and June as it ramped up for the postal contract. Other cargo and charter operators, from the DHLs and Atlas Airs to smaller freight haulers, are also in hiring mode if they see growth opportunities. Generally, cargo pilot jobs tend to require more experience. Many cargo captains are ex-military or former passenger airline pilots, but entry points do exist, especially with smaller cargo airlines and contractors that fly feeder routes. For aspiring pilots, the cargo sector can be a great career, often featuring high pay and interesting flying, but the immediate hiring waves in 2025 are more on the passenger airline side. Cargo hiring is stable to slower right now, FedEx is on pause, UPS is selectively growing. So keep an eye on cargo carriers. Things like e-commerce trends or new contracts can rapidly change their staffing needs. And remember, cargo airlines have mandatory retirements too, so they will need fresh blood in the coming years. It's just a matter of timing and industry cycles. Now let's talk numbers, because understanding the supply and demand statistics can really put the job market in perspective. Here are some key stats and forecasts every aspiring pilot should know. 18,000 per year. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projects about 18,500 pilot jobs opening each year on average. This includes growth and replacement of retirees, a strong long-term annual demand. 24,000 shortfall in 2026. Consulting firm Oliver Wyman, which tracks aviation trends, predicts the pilot shortage will peak around 2026 with an estimated 24,000 pilot deficit, supply versus demand, in North America. In other words, airlines collectively may need tens of thousands more pilots than are available mid-decade. 16,000 retirements in 5 years. The National Air Carriers Association estimates over 16,000 U.S. airline pilots will reach mandatory retirement age in the next 5 years. By 2030, these retirements contribute to a cumulative shortage of about 28,000 pilots if not enough new pilots are trained. 80,000 retirements by 2045. Looking 20 years out, roughly 80,000 current U.S. airline pilots will age out and retire. Essentially, half of the industry will turn over, which is why training the next generation is so critical. Boeing's forecast. In its latest pilot and technical outlook, Boeing projects North America will need 123,000 new pilots over the next 20 years. Globally, that number is staggering, over 674,000 new pilots worldwide by 2043. And this to support fleet growth as air travel expands. Boeing even noted a potential shortfall of 34,000 pilots globally by 2025 if training pipelines don't keep up. This illustrates the annual number of airline pilot retirements expected at major U.S. carriers over the coming years, thanks to the FAA's mandatory retirement age of 65. You can see the trend heading sharply upwards. The wave of retirements peaking around 2026 and 2027 is one of the biggest reasons experts are confident that pilot demand will remain strong through the rest of the decade. Every time a senior captain hangs up their wings, it creates an opening that ripples throughout the whole ranks. First officers then upgrade, new hires then come in. In short, the pilot shortage isn't a media myth, it's backed by hard data on retirements and training rates. The challenge is finding and training enough qualified candidates to fill those seats in time. Evolving requirements and training pathways. Now, let's look at how the qualifications and pathways for becoming an airline pilot have been evolving, because there have been some important changes that affect new pilots. First, the college degree question. Traditionally, major airlines required a 4-year college degree for pilot applicants. This was long seen as a proxy for discipline and learning ability. But times have changed. In recent years, all of the major U.S. airlines quietly dropped the bachelor's degree requirement. Delta was the last holdout, nixing its degree requirement in 2022. Well, now a degree is preferred, but not mandatory to get hired at airlines like American, Delta, United, and Southwest. This change is largely to widen the pool of candidates in the face of the pilot shortage. Now, what does it mean for you? It means you can land a regional or even a major airline job without a college diploma. Many flow-through pilots from regionals don't have one, but keep in mind that having a degree can still be an advantage. Airlines use automated applicant tracking systems, and a degree might help you score higher and stand out in competitive times. So, my advice, don't feel like you must have an aviation degree to become a pilot, because you don't. But consider at least some college or an associate's degree if you can to keep more doors open. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room, the FAA's 1,500-hour rule for ATP pilots, for ATP certificates. As aspiring pilots know, in the US you generally need 1,500 hours of flight time and an ATP certificate to fly as an airline first officer, with there being some exceptions for military or accredited aviation school grads, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. This rule was enacted after the 2009 Colgan air crash, and it has been the subject of much debate. Some regional airlines blame it for bottlenecking the pilot supply, since it takes time and money for pilots to build 1,500 hours. In 2022, one regional, Republic Airways, even petitioned the FAA for an exemption to let their flight academy graduates qualify with 750 hours. This is similar to the military pathway. The FAA denied the request, and safety advocates, including the major pilot unions and families of crash victims, strongly opposed any reduction in training hours. As of 2025, the 1,500-hour rule remains firmly in place, and there's no signs of it going away. The current FAA leadership and Congress have shown little appetite to lower training minimums. Public safety sentiment is just too strong. So, if you're coming up the ranks, plan on the traditional routes. Build those hours through instructing or other jobs, or take advantage of the restricted ATP programs, like military pilots can qualify at 750 hours, or aviation college grads at 1,000 to 1,250. The system is admittedly a hurdle, but it's also credited with contributing to the excellent safety record U.S. airlines have today. Keep in mind, a lot of airlines are now offering tuition assistance, stipends, or partnerships to help pilots get through their hour building phase, which brings us to the training pipeline. Airlines are getting creative with training and recruitment. To avoid a perpetual shortage, major carriers have launched their own pilot academies and pathway programs. For example, Delta's Propel program offers multiple tailored pathways for aspiring pilots, from college aviation programs to company employment to partnerships with flight schools. If you get into Propel, Delta provides mentorship and a job offer that basically guarantees you a future pilot job at Delta, or Delta Connections carrier, once you meet the experience and training milestones. Similarly, United Airlines opened its own flight academy, the United Aviate Academy in Phoenix. It aimed at training 5,000 new pilots by 2030 with an emphasis on diversifying the pilot pool. American Airlines has the cadet program in conjunction with its regional affiliates, offering scholarships and flow-through to American's mainline operation for those who commit early. Even Southwest has Destination 225, a pathway program for several routes including college, military, and instructor pipelines. Airlines don't want to just wait for pilots to show up anymore. They're actively cultivating them. Major carriers are partnering with universities and big flight schools to expand capacity and streamline curriculum as well. All of this is fantastic news if you're training now. There are more scholarships, bridge programs, and defined pathways than ever before. Do your research and take advantage of these opportunities. They can significantly shorten the time from classroom to cockpit and often come with mentorship and conditional job offers that remove a lot of uncertainty from your career progression. Now let's move on to the 6 to 12 month outlook and what to expect in 2026. So, what's the near-term outlook for pilot hiring as we head through late 2025 and 2026? In a nutshell, cautiously optimistic growth. Industry experts predict that after the slower pace of 2024, hiring will rebound to a more normal rhythm in 2025. We're not talking about the hire anybody with a pulse frenzy of 2022, but rather steady recruitment to meet rising demand. Remember, air travel is continuing to boom. Global passenger numbers are climbing, and it projected to exceed 10 billion in 2025 for the first time. U.S. airlines are profitable and looking to grow capacity, provided they have the jets and crews. The main constraint holding back airlines right now isn't a lack of passengers, it's aircraft delivery delays, thanks to manufacturer production issues, and to a lesser extent, pilot training throughput. As Boeing and Airbus iron out their supply chain problems, carriers like United, American, and Southwest will start receiving more new planes. And when those jets arrive, airlines will hire pilots to fly them. In fact, analysts say the current hiring lull is partly because airlines are waiting on airplanes. Once deliveries ramp up in late 2025, hiring could tick back up quickly. Crucially, the retirement wave we discussed is really going to hit its stride over the next 1 to 2 years. Tens of thousands of senior pilots at the majors will retire by 2026. Airlines must replace them to avoid shrinking. That means even if growth slows, replacement hiring will keep demand flowing. The VP of hiring at one regional recently quipped, "We're hiring to replace the guys that the majors took from us. And the majors are hiring to replace their retirees. It's one big game of musical cockpit seats." Even with the ups and downs of the economy, those retirements create a non-negotiable need for fresh pilots. FAPA data shows that pilot hiring in 2024, while lower than the peak, was still above pre-pandemic level. What we're seeing is more of a return to the feast and famine cycle that's typical in aviation. 2022 was a feast, 2024 is a bit of a famine, but that's normal. As one job market expert put it, with airlines, everything ebbs and flows. They went too hard, too fast, then pulled back, but it will swing up again. Looking ahead 6 to 12 months, expect the major airlines to cautiously resume hiring in late 2025 as they take delivery of new aircraft and prepare schedules for 2026 peak travel season. Some, like American, have publicly said they anticipate needing 1,500 pilots in 2025 to cover retirements and modest growth. Regional airlines should remain very active in hiring as they backfill attrition to the majors and try to restore flights on routes that were cut. The pilot shortage at regionals won't disappear overnight, so opportunities there will stay plentiful. Cargo carriers might remain a bit conservative, as we saw with FedEx, but if the economy ticks up, they too could start hiring again, or at least recall any pilots on voluntary leave. One wild card: mandatory retirement age policy. There's ongoing political debate about potentially raising the airline pilot retirement age from 65 to 67 in the US. Some senators are pushing to change the international standard. If that were to happen in the next year, it could slightly delay some retirements. But as of now, it's just a proposal facing significant opposition. For your purposes, plan on age 65 retirements continuing as usual. To sum up the outlook, no, the pilot hiring boom is not over. It took a breather, yes, but the fundamentals, strong travel demand, and mass retirements point to continued hiring needs through 2025 and 2026. Think of 2024 and 2025 as a pit stop, not the finish line. Many airlines are simply reloading and strategizing, and you can expect recruiting to ramp up again, perhaps not at record 2022 levels, but certainly robust by historical standards. If you're training or job hunting now, use this period wisely to prepare. More on that in a moment, because the next wave of hiring could be around the corner as the industry adapts to its new normal. Now I have some tips for aspiring pilots and how to get an edge. Alright, aspiring aviators, with all this information, what can you do to position yourself best in this evolving job market? Well, here are a few actionable tips. As a flight instructor, one of the most common issues that I see are people picking the wrong flight school. So if you haven't started training yet, but you plan to, please do your research and pick a flight school that fits your needs. I'll have an entire course linked down below where I walk you through every single step of choosing a flight school. Also, you need to keep building experience and qualifications. This one sounds obvious, but in a cooling hiring cycle, the pilots who have a bit extra to offer will get the calls first. Don't stop at the bare minimums. For example, accumulate quality flight time. If you're just starting out, or if you've already hit 1,500 hours, there's a few things to consider. Consider instructing a few more months to pad your experience, or get a type rating if an opportunity arises. If you can add an instrument instructor, CFII, or multi-engine instructor MEI certificate, do it. Little extras can set you apart when the competition tightens slightly. Remember, 1,500 hours is a minimum. Many new airline FOs might have 2,000 by the time they're hired. The more experience and polish you have, the easier training will be and the more attractive you are to an airline. Leverage pipeline programs. This one is huge. As we discussed, airlines have opened up cadet and pipeline programs. Take advantage of them. If you know you ultimately want to fly for, say, American Airlines, one great route is to join American's Cadet Academy, or get hired at a wholly owned regional like Envoy, PSA, or Piedmont, which offers flow-throughs to American. Similarly, United's Aviate program can take you from 0 hours or low hours all the way to a United flight deck, as long as you meet the milestones. Delta's Propel, Southwest Destination 225, JetBlue's Gateway program, these are golden tickets if you can secure one. They often provide financial assistance, mentorship, and a defined career path, which removes a lot of uncertainty. Research the eligibility and apply early. Spots can be competitive, but if you get in, you've significantly shortened your path to a major airline cockpit. Network and stay engaged. Even in the age of online applications, the old saying holds true. It's not just what you know, it's who you know. Networking is huge in aviation. Attend industry job fairs, conferences, Women in Aviation, OBAP, local pilot club meetings, whatever appeals to you. FAPA runs free pilot career fairs every month. In the boom of 2022 and 23, most airlines showed up, but now more individual pilots are attending again. Take advantage of that. Talk to recruiters, make a personal impression, and stay in touch. If you meet a pilot who works at your target airline, see if they'll be a mentor or at least keep you informed of opportunities. Many airlines give pilots referral bonuses for bringing in new hires, so pilots are often happy to recommend good candidates. Also, polish your professional image, update your resume, practice interview questions. There are plenty of study guides and forums for airline interview prep. Use this period of slightly slower hiring to prepare, so that when the demand picks up, you are ready to shine. As one hiring manager advised during the lull, use the downtime to dust off your resume, practice interview skills, polish your craft, and talk to human beings. That's good advice. Be flexible on entry-level jobs. Your first flying job might not be your dream job, and that's okay. It's a stepping stone. Regional airlines are the obvious entry route, and they're great for building experience quickly, and they pay much better now than they used to. But don't sleep on Part 135 charter and corporate jobs either. Many charter companies, like fractional ownership fleets like NetJets, and even corporate flight departments are hiring pilots too. Some of these jobs will take you with lower hours if regionals start raising their hiring minimums. For example, a 1,000-hour pilot might find a job flying turboprops or light jets for a charter outfit, then jump to the regionals. Those gigs can provide valuable turbine time and often a more flexible lifestyle early on. Also, consider freight flying at the entry level. Companies like Ameriflight or Mountain Air Cargo have historically been stepping stones where relatively low-time pilots fly cargo in smaller aircraft, often at night, and then move up to the airlines. The key is to keep flying and keep progressing. Each job should ideally give you more hours, more experience in a multi-crew or complex environment, and maybe some new ratings. Don't be too picky early on. Get your foot in the door, then work your way up. Stay informed and adapt. The aviation industry can change quickly. As we saw, one year you're in a hiring boom, the next year it cools off. Then things can heat up again. Stay plugged into industry news. Websites like Flying Magazine, AOPA, and forums can be useful for rumor mills and updates. For example, if Congress were to raise the retirement age or if a new airline startup began hiring, those are things that could affect you. Another scenario. If a recession hits and travel demand drops, airlines might pause hiring. Always good to have a plan B or at least awareness of what you do. Maybe flight instruct a bit longer or pursue that degree, etc. Conversely, if you start hearing that airlines are short on captains and considering hiring bonuses, that's a cue that momentum is swinging in your favor. Basically, keep your ear to the ground. Pilot unions like ALPA and associations often publish reports. For instance, the Regional Airline Association highlighted how many small communities have lost air service due to the pilot shortage, implying lots of flying is waiting to be done if pilots are available. These tidbits can help you target which airlines or sectors to pursue at a given time. The more informed you are, the more strategic you can be in your career moves. Above all, don't lose heart. The road to an airline cockpit can be long and occasionally bumpy, but the opportunities are out there. As one veteran pilot put it, you have to love aviation. If the smell of jet fuel does something for you, the industry will have a place for you. Passion and perseverance go a long way. This is a time of great change in the industry, but also great opportunity for new pilots who are prepared and motivated. In conclusion, the pilot hiring outlook as of 2025 is encouraging for those just starting their careers. Yes, the frantic gold rush of 2022 has leveled off, but by all indicators, it's set to stabilize and grow in the coming months and years. Major airlines are moving back into hiring mode, albeit at a saner pace, to cover retirements and expansions. Regionals are hungry for new pilots to rebuild schedules and feed the majors. Cargo carriers, while currently mixed, will eventually need new pilots as their older crews retire. The pilot shortage is real and not going away overnight, which means airlines will continue to compete for talent, and that's you, the aspiring pilot. Benefiting from better pay, benefits, and opportunities. Just remember that aviation always has its cycles. If we hit a brief lull, use it to sharpen your skills. When the upturn comes, and it will, you'll be ready to seize the moment. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the pilot job market. If you found this information helpful, please give the video a thumbs up, or if you're listening on Spotify, rate the podcast and follow. And for more content on pilot careers, flight training, and industry insights, subscribe to the channel. I'm here to help you soar in your aviation journey. If you have any questions or any experiences to share, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Until next week, fly safe and stay motivated. I'll see you next week.